This story is by Reddit user Dungeon Marshall, and it is titled "Candy Corn." Little author note: this is a repost, but who doesn't enjoy a little candy corn in October? This is one of my personal favorites that I've written. For those who haven't read it, I hope you enjoy. If you go down this road and pass the old mill, you will see a little gray house up on the hill. The windows are all broken and the doors hang from its frame. The front yard is tall weeds. The backyard's the same. The chimney is crumbled into a pile of dust, rusty red. The only tree in the yard is twisted, blackened, and dead. It was once the home of Ichabod and Imogen Corn, who they say went mad after their daughter was born. It was late October. If I remember it right, she was born in that house on a dark and stormy night. Imogen screamed when lightning struck the old oak, and Candace Corn was born at midnight's final stroke. The next few years seemed normal, I suppose. That is, if you don't count all the black cats that gathered beneath their windows. At first, it was only a couple, then it was more than a few. Where they all came from, nobody knew. 13 in total, or so they do say, and they circled around Candace whenever she went out to play. Her first day of school, oh, what a mess! The children all laughed at her name and made fun of her pretty orange dress. But the meanest among them was a little boy named Paul. He got the other kids to say, "Nobody likes candy corn, nobody at all." He giggled at his joke and thought himself real bright. Some say it was no coincidence that Paul's home burned down that very night. When Candace left for school the next day, she skipped by the smoldering ruins along the way. Paul and his family made it out of their house, not a second too late, but they had to move in with Paul's Aunt Martha, who lived over in another state. I'm not saying that little Candace was involved, but it was a strange mystery that had gone completely unsolved. A few years later, when Candace turned 13, her father was committed and never again was he seen. Her mother acted nervous, but her fits of laughter were not rare. But Candace always smiled at people sweetly, as if she hadn't a care. I'm not sure why Ichabod and Imogen went insane, but the townsfolk all thought Candace was the one to blame. "Something about that girl unnerves me," confessed Mrs. McGrath. For those who don't know, she taught junior high math. Then in the teacher's lounge, rumors started to spread, all about the strange pictures Candace drew and the weird tales that she read. But the teachers did nothing. I suppose there was nothing to do. But things were quite different when Candace turned 22. She was now a young lady who lived alone on the hill. You see, her mother was finally committed to a place for the mentally ill. The townies all knew she was conducting strange spells in the night. Mr. Franklin reported seeing her house bathed in a most unnatural green light, and strangers were seen leaving her place, all with long coats and wide-brimmed hats that covered their face. We only see them leave there, but never arrive. I have an awful feeling that they weren't even alive. Mrs. Clemens expressed. Then she sipped from her flask she kept in the pocket of his vest. We should do something before it's too late. You know, the other night I caught her skulking around the cemetery gate. The townsfolk all gathered at Wilbur's Bar and Grill. It was there that they conspired about what to do with Candace, who lived on the hill. We all need some proof that she's up to no good, came the suggestion of a lady named Wilma Wood. What we do next, I really don't know. I guess we'll just play it by ear as we go. They all drew straws to see who would visit Miss Corn, and the privilege was given to the skeptical Reverend Lemuel Bourne. She hasn't done anything to warrant mistrust. I'll gladly pay her a visit if it should quell all this fuss. He said in a voice self-possessed and loud, I hope to be heard above the roar of the crowd. The next day he found himself at her front door. He knocked once, but there was no answer, so he knocked once more. When he left that morning, his hair was raven black, but it was white as snow when he came back. Nobody knows what got under his skin, but he left town that very day and was never heard from again. Soon the figures and hats were seen in the streets at night, and the people locked themselves away in their homes out of sheer fright. They spied on the figures through their curtains and blinds, in hopes of answering all of the questions that weighed heavy on their fevered minds. But no clues were discovered. They were still in the dark. We'll run Candace Corn out of this town, came the suggestion of one Mr. Clark. What happened next, I'm not glad to say, because it wasn't this town's proudest day. When 34 angry people, and many of their children too, rallied together and their confidence grew. Up on the hill they all gathered in the yard. Just then black clouds billowed in, and a wicked wind blew cold and hard. Despite this ill omen from the crowd there came a shout, Candy Corn, you're no longer welcome in our town. We want you out. The ghostly moan of the wind was the only reply, so a boy chucked a rock, and through a glass window did it fly. They say that it was the catalyst for the other events so extreme. The people of the town still remember hearing the scream. Imagine the panic when everyone learned of all the people who went up there that day. Only 6 of them returned. The townsfolk all left for destinations unknown. They decided it was better to leave Candace alone. So they left this town once and for good. None of them spoke of Candace Corn, and none of them ever would. So now the town is empty, and you say that house looks empty too. You want to explore it, but be warned before you do. Whatever happened to Candace Corn, no one can say, but there are those who claim to still live up there today. If you value your sanity, soul, flesh, and bone, then for mercy's sake leave Candace Corn alone. The end.